Welcome, everybody, to June 15th, 2023 June meetup for GDG Dallas. And I will introduce our speaker, Harish Patel. He is an Android manager. He is the Android manager at Bottle Rocket Studios, also a close friend of mine. That's not how he got the speaking engagement, just in case you're wondering. We're not biased, but
Not biased, just highly
yeah, but that never hurts. There was no bribe involved, no bribe at all. Harish Patel is a senior software developer and Android manager at Bottle Rocket. He joined Bottle Rocket in early 2012, which means he has been doing Android development professionally for over a decade, which is pretty rare if you want to know about it. Like that, not a whole lot of people can say they've been doing it that long. And he's made major contributions to the Starwood project, Starwood Hotels, SPG. He's also worked on several other large projects at Bottle Rocket, including Albertsons Health and Wellness, Caesars Entertainment, Coca-Cola Freestyle, Pizza Hut, Chick-Fil-A. What?
do the betting.
No.
No, not the betting stuff. Coca-Cola Freestyle, Pizza Hut, Chick-fil-A, Food Network, In the Kitchen, Huggies Rewards, Fuel Rewards, and even Awe, which was a video platform that was used by NBC, Scripps Networks, which are like all the kind of Food Network and stuff. So this guy has probably written an app you've used, and just in case you're wondering, or he's worked on it, obviously.
Exactly. I didn't work, do it all by myself.
This guy's been real busy. But a great Android developer, great guy, big Seinfeld fan. He probably has every Seinfeld episode completely memorized, and he is here to speak on Android app widget development with Glance. So take it away, Harish.
Like, the people who call into the radio station and say like, long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah.
Same thing, like I've been attending, the meetup for a long time, the first time presenting. So, and I think this topic, the app widget development has been near and dear to me. I think around 2015, I did try, developing a widget here, and it just went south. The whole infrastructure just was not very easy to understand. And at that time, I was also a little bit junior, So this time they came up with this Glance library, Google did, that made the job so much easier, So I did a little calendar widget, and I'll show you guys kind of did that. Like interactions are encouraged, so anytime you guys, if you feel like you're hearing a term for the first time and I have not elaborated on it, please, raise your hand or something like that. But yeah, want to make it as interactive about this. There are a few slides. I'll be sharing some of the code from Android Studio also, so I'll kind of go back and so here's the agenda for today. So what are the overall benefits of app widgets? What are the benefits of the Glance library? How does it make it even better? We'll talk, I'll divide it into like 2-3 sections. One is like UI, then other section is like data, and the first section is kind of miscellaneous, and you'll see like dynamic resizing of the widgets is another miscellaneous topic. Discoverability, I think, is one of the challenge that was there, no longer there. So we'll talk about that a little bit, And then while I was developing this, widget, what were some of the challenges I ran into, and things like that. And then at the end, some useful resources. So let's jump in. So, all of us who have an Android phone, have seen or used some of these widgets, generally like you'll see calendar ones, you'll see email ones. Yes, you can see on the first screenshot, I have the email one as well as our Outlook one, so one of each, so that's one thing I always have on my phone. You can see the weather one is a very common one. The little lunar, the moon one is just like in India, the calendar is based off of lunar cycle, So this is like, this guy created the widget with, so you can see the point of the moon also, and then you tap into it, and then it'll take you to the calendar view and inside the app, Google one, Spotify. So any of the like playback listening, that's another common one where, hey, people don't want to just go to the app, unless they want to do something specific. This is a great use case for that, By the way, I did not get a good screenshot of the Google Maps one, but my God, they have some good stuff, like some 5 or 6 like app widgets, that are like really good, So do check them out. And the last screen, that's the app widget that I've worked on. Consolidator is one of the apps that I've worked here. It's an internal app kind of, and out of that, so I'm a manager. Sometimes we staff developers. So I wanted to just know, like, hey, what are give me a 2 months or 3 months view, right? So this way, you can kind of, I don't know in this view it's visible or not, but you can see there are 2 weeks, like a little bit light bluish tone. So all the sprints kind of like are there. So I can kind of see in my mind, hey, this is how the sprints kind of lay out. I marked the holidays. The current month is the one with the tan background, June up. In this case, it's April because I took the screenshot at the time, And then some of the holidays in the light blue color, So something like that. I just wanted to do something simple for details, then go to the other one. But I just wanted to have like a 2-month overview, and I'll show you a little bit more. Yeah, so we talked about all of them. For some of our clients, we develop apps for our clients. So some of the other cases are like, if you're a hotel and if you have some offers, for booking and things like that, hey, this is a perfect case, that you can just surface it on the home screen. And user spends a lot of time on the home screen anyways, right? So it's kind of a good thing, like daily offers, deals, sales, things like that. So just about any kind of thing you can think of, we can kind of do that. So let's look at the overall benefits of app widgets. First of all, it's less invasive and convenient. What I mean by less invasive is that if you were to send a notification, well, the user has to first opt in, and say, hey, I do want to be bothered, right? Whereas this one, app widget, no permissions needed, It's literally like it's passively sitting there on your home screen, right? And if you want to put a badge on it or whatever, it doesn't bother the user, right? If they're scrolling past their home screen and if they see it and they want to explore a little bit further, this is a perfect thing, right? So that's, I think, the beauty of app widgets. And sometimes you just want to have a quick glance, of whatever you're looking for, like a summary, like a daily dashboard or something like that, rather than like going into the app every time, right? So it's a little bit of a convenience thing also. It increases user engagement in my mind, that literally if you are, there are a lot of times our clients, they'll always say, hey, what is the analytics say that the users, are they coming in like once a month into our app or things like that, right? Well, this one, if you surface something, then they're going to be more engaging, to open up the app and kind of do a hotel booking or anything like that, right? And the last thing, the distribution. The app, when you make the APK file, the app widget is already rolled into it, so it user does not have to download any additional thing. It's part of the thing, so part of the APK and things like that. And all they need to do is just add it to the function. So that's the nice thing. So why are they not as popular? Like discoverability is the #1 problem, So I'll show you on the next screen actually. So like if you want to get to or find one, you have to solicit. You have to go in, do a long press on the home screen, and then you will see the very first screen widgets. You click on that. Now it's going to show you all of the widgets that any of the apps that you've installed, it'll show it to you, right? Second thing you can do is like just hover over or like a long press on the app icon, like the Google Maps one that I did. And you can see that it has like the shortcuts, for example, the home and work. And then there are widgets also. So you can kind of go to that view and you can kind of see that. You know? So back 2 years ago, Android released or added a feature that any app can utilize these what do you call shortcuts. So like that home and work are like a couple of my Mac shortcuts that I've created, right? So literally you can just search with them, right? So they're using the same thing to solve the discovery thing. So I'll show you that in a little bit, you know. So, but like I said, before last couple of years, it was just very hard to find the apps because you got to literally go. I would like I would like check every 6 months or so, but see if any of the newer apps that I've added and if they have widgets, right? Even on Google Play, like if I'm a app producer, I would make sure to put some screenshots on there. Otherwise, like, how is your user going to know, right, that you have that? So I think this was one of the biggest problems, you know, discoverability. And second thing is like misconceptions, you know, with some of the clients or companies that, hey, maybe if they just use the widget, they may not go into that. But I think it's the other way around, you know. Lack of development support from Google, you know, in particular, like they, for 10 years, they did not do anything with this app widgets to kind of grow them, right? 2 years ago, that changed with Android 12, you know, and that's why this, and then just the architectural complexities, and I'll show you why, you know, in the next slide. So the first friction point we saw was that it was just hard, like, you know, back in 2015, I think I tried to develop a app widget, and it was very simple, but to get the data to it and all that, and it just was not fun. And, you know, well, Glance is going to change that once I show you that, right? And you look at the code and it's so concise and not much code, and I was able to get this widget in like a very short time. You know, no major updates since Android 12, so that was another problem. You know, lack of code reuse. Because I'll show you on the next slide, whatever the code, let's say you design some screen, you know, some UI portion for your app. Well, now if you just want to take that code and just move it to that one, right? You should just do it. No, it doesn't work like that. Because of the way these app widgets are architected, you got to kind of reuse them, like by copying it and repurpose them rather than reuse the same exact thing. You know, so I'll show you that. Because Android uses a thing called remote views, you know. So like if you were to go to developer.android.com and you'll see these remote views, you know. So if you look at the definition, a class that describes a view hierarchy that can be displayed in another process, you know, each app runs on different processes. So the hierarchy is inflated from a layout resource file, and this class provides some basic operations for modifying the content of the inflated hierarchy, you know. So if we go back to our presentation, I'll show you a little bit. So this will make it easier a little bit to understand. So the one on the right, you have the app process, right? You know, Android, everything is just like run, it's a Linux process, basically. On the left side, the home screen itself is another process, okay? That either Android, like Google developed, or you may have downloaded some another home widget that you like, right, from the store. Somebody else may have developed it. So that thing is another process. So Google, whenever they develop these, this is like, it's a security thing, right? Like you want to share some of your process stuff onto the other one, right? So that's why they created this remote view. So you literally, like from your app, you're creating this remote view, you're pushing it up there, and then you're like updating the data to sending the data to it, you know. So that's why before Glance, it was a little bit harder, you know, but now you see it's makes it a little bit easier, you know. Like I said, you cannot reuse the existing code. Like I have a calendar widget already on my app. I could not use it, but literally with Glance, it's written out of Compose, JetPack Compose. So now I just took that Compose, copied it over in the widget folder, and then I just had to make some minor modification. But most of the, I did not have to reinvent the wheel. Like all of my code, mostly the modifiers for Compose I had to change. Other than that, it just kind of things. Yeah. So We talked about the recent advances. Android 12 made lot of changes like styling, rounded corners for supported, device theming, like if you wanted to have the widgets also do the dark mode, you can kind of do that thing, Widget configuration and dynamic resizing, that is one of the better ones, So like if you had, actually, I'll show you on the next slide, And the third one, the last one is the prompting the user to pin a widget, kind of using that shortcut thing. So now discoverability became a lot easier, and I'll show you how to do that. And the last thing is that Compose is the backbone of Glance library. And by the way, Glance library is developed by Google, so they're going to support it. When I was developing it towards the end of last year and earlier part of this year, it was in alpha. This Google I/O in May, they announced they went to a beta, basically. So at least good. They want to, And by the way, if you want to do watch apps, it supports watchOS also.
Yeah, that was the cool thing with this whole thing is that this is how they're building out everything. Like right now, they're officially on watches and widgets, but it's also for the smart devices and the smart home things and the pop-ups. It'll be the system.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a really good thing. I wish we had some clients who wanted to do some watchOS stuff. I'd love to kind of try it out on that. Okay. I think most of you Android developers are probably familiar with JetPack Compose, but in case you're not, it's a declarative UI thing. Most of us back in the day, we would write XML layouts and then you had to hide views and things like that. This one is a different way of thinking. It's like what you want to show, and you just show it, and you just put a if user is logged in, well, show their reservations or whatever the information. If they're not logged in, there's show on a little button to log in or whatever, right? So it's a different kind of mindset, and Compose, it's declarative. It's like 30 to 40% faster development, for the UI, and looks like Swift UI is going towards that. Everybody, like Flutter, they're using the declarative. So like if you know one, you can actually pick up any of the other ones. And if you look at any of the code from any of these three platforms, Flutter, the declarative UI looks pretty similar, so it's a nice thing. And you're writing these Kotlin functions, and you're giving it like add composable, and that's how it knows. So that's I don't want to go too much into JetPack Compose, but I wanted to do. So this is like Glance sitting up at the top. There's a Glance App Widget class. There's a Glance App Widget receiver, and then it generates this remote views and XML. So you are not writing any XML. You're writing Compose code, and it's going to generate. So for that reason, keep one thing if you're developing it, like only certain widgets, like meaning the UI widgets, from Compose are like translate to that, because remember, the Glance library has to convert all of those views into this remote view. So it has some limitations and all that stuff. So they have a limited set, but as you can see from my calendar one, I was able to achieve pretty good UI, so didn't, for otherwise, like mostly UI widgets don't have too much UI, Okay. So it's going to generate so let's look in the UI. We talked about it essentially translates Compose code into the remote views. Don't write complex ones. We just talked about that. And it did not take me too much time to develop the UI part. So this is like, now we're going to dive into the code a little bit, but before that, I want to show you how different components work. So think about on the right top is the repository. So I have like a calendar repository. Work manager, I'll talk about that, like how you can refresh your widget on a periodic basis. So I use work manager and some of the advantages of that. You can use other mechanisms also, but why I use work manager, I'll explain to you that. You got the main activity. Basically, it just kind of starts the thing. You can prompt the user if you want to, hey, do you want to add this widget to your home screen? That prompt, that code is built into the main activity. Other than that, app widget code is really separate. So literally, like if you had an idea and you don't want to write an app, you don't have to. This thing can just stand by itself, on its own. and it's completely detached. So that's the beauty of it. So if you want to like, hey, I don't want to do the detail one, but I just want to create a widget, go for it. Like you don't have to, you can just do the main activity and just start off the, the polling and all that kind of stuff. Other than that, we talked about the glance app widget receiver, the action callback. So that's where, like, in my calendar, you have the up and back and forward, to move between the months. So those are the action callback, or like if you want to tap on something and you want to say, okay, take me to the app. So those are the action callbacks. So you set those up. The glance app widget, that's the central point. That's the starting kind of thing. They use for data. Glance provides what they call this preferences glance state definition. What it is that it's just a way for you to hook into if you had shared preferences, and so the shared preferences, if you use to literally, so for me, what I'm doing is like, from my repository, I get a list of events like, hey, these are the holidays, these are certain things I want to mark and all that stuff. I convert that into JSON and I store it as a shared preference, so that's what I'm doing. But you can do room database and other things also, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But for me, I did not do room database. I just took the simple one out. So if you wanted to do like counters or something like that, use the shared preference one. They already given you that. Literally, you have to write like a getter and setter, and you're good. Okay. So now let's look at the code. So first, I'm gonna just show only the UI code, basically. So the very first thing you do is like, and by the way, at the end, I'll send you a link where all of the code is available. And also, like, I can post the whole presentation on the Slack room also. So you'll have all the slides or any of the links that I have made. So the first thing you're gonna do is in the Android manifest, you're gonna add this receiver. So literally this consolidator widget receiver is just something that extends one of their classes. You add that in there, and like I said, they have this Android filter, intent filter called App Widget update. How it uses it, I didn't even have an interface with it. So literally, I didn't have to deal with it much. Second thing, this metadata file, this calendar widget info. So that is the second file you set up. So in that one, literally just this thing. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna give it like your min width. And this is, by the way, the only this and one layout file. Those are the only XML files you touch. And other than that, nothing in XML. So this one you're gonna say, hey, these are my min width, min height. Resize mode. You want the user to expand in the horizontal, vertical, and things like that. So you can do that also. Although it is a little bit clunky, I'll show you a couple of the bugs. I think I'm gonna file a bug. Glance, so maybe they'll fix it, and I'll show you that. You can say like max resize width, something like that. One thing, remember this file. This file does not follow like in Android, like if you wanted to, if certain things are supported only Android 12 and after, you can create the API 31 bucket, right? And underneath it, you have another version of this. So literally, I think I added this little ignore statement because it'll give you this. If I take out this target APIs, then it'll show you some warning. So one of the guys who develops this, he said, hey, we don't have that hierarchy like the rest of the Android. So you're gonna have just one info XML file, and that's it, and you just ignore the error. So you mix all the attributes, the old ones prior to Android 12 as well as the new ones. It's all in one, but I think they have some bugs. So I want to open up a bug, and I'll show you about the resize one.
It's software.
For the most part, it's good. And I'll show you when I do the live demo and I try to resize my widget. I'll show you what it does, kind of. This one is just for preview, the XML. So literally, you can see that it's an image button, the top arrow, kind of like I'm just trying to display. And this preview is going to be used whenever, like, if you long press on it and say, hey, what are your flavors of your widget, right? So it's just only for preview. Literally, you can see this thing. It was a screenshot, and it's just the image view. I just pasted it in here back in February. So that's all it is. So literally, this preview is only just for preview purpose. This layout file. So literally, just that's the only XML. And otherwise, in the regular coding, it's not part of that. All right. So this is my UI. So,
Question.
oh, somebody has a question.
Sorry, so, it seems like I've encountered like this type of, image. And I was like, okay, well, I see the lines, this is a Google, so you kind of create, I guess, HTML or something like that. It kind of goes like that, just, beginner.
Okay.
So, I was like, well, how do I view how it actually looks, like the way you just.
Oh, like you can, when you look at the layout file, you can go into the code view, or you can do the split or the design one. So if you do design, it only shows the design one. You can do the split one. And then the nice thing about it is you can go in this actually, yeah, this one. You can see it in a blueprint view, kind of. You can see the design view. You can kind of see design and blueprint. And you can even actually on this one, I don't know if there's a way to do like dark mode versus light mode, So if you had that style set up that way, you could kind of do it. So yeah, use the split one or the design one, and then you can just pick the design one, and you can kind of see what your layout looks like. Kind of what you see is what you get. Awesome. Any other questions? Yeah. All right. So the first one, I'm gonna go real fast, real quick. Somebody posted. Oh,
That's me.
yeah. So this is the UI. So this is my top level. So the Calendar App Widget UI. So this is like literally 100 lines of code. What it does is that show my month widget. So I broke it down into like a whole widget, month one, and then the week view kind of. So literally you'll see that. You can see the arrows up, down. Now here, this is the dynamic sizing. So I can say number of months to show. Is it greater than equals to 2? Then show 2. Like I think right now on the widget size, I don't think I could fit 3 unless you had like a tablet. Maybe you can fit 3, but at least 2. So I show either my widget, it can show only 1 month or 2 months. So that's what that is. So you do that. Then I call the month calendar UI. And then the next file we'll look at is actually the one. So literally like the top row with the week kind of, and then you just have a bunch of these week UI. So it's like 60 lines of code there, another 30 lines for the week view one. That's it. That's all the UI. So let me show you a little bit of the running widget. So on the right side, the emulator. So this is the app. So what I did is in my main activity, I said like pause for like 2-3 seconds, and then go ahead and ask Android OS to prompt for the widget. So this solves the discoverability. Only one issue that I found is there is no way I found out to find out if the user has already placed the widget on it, on the home screen. Because it's like that home app widget, it's a completely different app, right? So these guys, I tried different things. So what I would say is if you want to figure out, like, because you don't want to keep bothering the user, like, hey, you want to have to add the app widget every time, right? So what you can do is add a little preference, shared preference, and say, hey, user already added it. And that way you don't bother the person, I spent like 2 days trying to figure out different ways. I could not find a way, So I would say like, if you want to do something like that, but this is the best one. So what I'm going to do is like, and if I had multiple different types of widgets, then they would all show up here. I could select one, and then I could just say add to the home screen. And now if I go to the home screen, this is the thing. So by default, the 1 month one showed up, right? And now if I can just hover over, and this is where you'll see some of the bugs. So the sizing thing, I'll show you another place where you also set the size constraint, but it's kind of goofy. So now, like you see the 2 month one, it kind of showed up, right? I can do it. But like I tried to test it on an Android. This is like a 33 API 33. On API 32, it was behaving a little bit different, but maybe because my screen was small and things like that. So I think there are a few bugs. So I'm gonna create a bug with them. But you can literally see that you can resize it and we kind of do that. And also let me go back to this one. Here, watch this video. So this is like something Google did, and this demo is actually in there. So you see they did a weather widget, and you can do only like a very narrow one, and they have like 3 different flavors. So literally, that's how powerful it is. Kind of. So you saw this one, and basically all we're doing is, for me, in the shared preferences, all I'm storing is all of those calendar days, you know, like, hey, what are the holidays and whatever I want to mark. And the second thing is this up and down arrow just dictates, hey, what is my top? So literally that's the only data I store. You know, so for me, it's a simple widget. Okay. So that was the UI. Let's go back to this one. And then further. So the dynamic resizing of the widget. So let me show you the code around that. So if you look at the consolidated app widget, it just extends Glance app widget. In that one, by the way, you can even use this is debug override. So if you're like developing it, do your testing with only one of them, like one of the players. So that way you save your time, right? So I have this thing, debug override, and if I'm running it debug, do only 1 month widget, right? So that way you don't have all the extra clutter for all of the in the lockcat and all this stuff. And by the way, everything is in lockcat. Any of the widget code, you can put breakpoints also, and it'll step through. So that is really, you know, okay. So that's that. This is the state definition where you just say, hey, this preference is a Glance state definition. So that's what I'm gonna drive my data from. You do this provide Glance, and this provide content says, hey, this is now all of my basically composed code, you know, and we just say, hey, go ahead and if, so this is the thing, if you look at the size one, you create this companion object and you say like 1 month widget, I want it to be 200 by dp by 200 dp. The other one, 200 dp, width wise, I don't want to do anything more, but 425 for the other one. So you tweak these numbers, and I don't know how that XML, that info XML that I showed you first, I don't know how those numbers kind of correlate, right? So that's the thing. So in this thing, you do this when size. So literally it gives you this local size.current. So it knows what is your size availability, right? Based on what the user has selected and how big they're growing it. And based on that, you're gonna fall into this switch when statement. Either you're gonna show 2 months or 1 month. But they're like minor bugs that I think you may have to test out on different size windows just to make sure. So we did that. Let's look at a little bit of the. Oh yeah, let me show you the pinning app pinning of that widget code also. So if I go to my main activity view model, actually let me take you to the main activity. So literally, like this, to fetch the data, I want the widget to refresh every 15 minutes, right? So I thought one of the files that I did set up for them and has like an on update thing or on enable and disable thing. So I thought I'll get that call back. I never get that call back, you know, so that's why I had to use the main screen, the main activity. So the first time the user logs in, that's only my they start a calendar data fetch, my work manager queue thing and started that. So that's one thing I do. Second thing is I do the pin widget request. So if you look at this, literally the code is just this much, you know. So I try to write this method like is widget installed. It did not work, right? So like I said, I tried a few things, it does not work. So I would suggest you would just do something like a shared preference, a flag, and then don't show the thing. But literally, if widget is request pin app widget supported, meaning like if it's, I think it's Android 12 and above. I did not check if it works below there. I think it should, but that's it. And literally just say request pin app widget. That's all it is. You know, like add this 5-6 lines of code, and it will pop that. So discoverability, which was one of the big friction points, they solved it.
Kind of wondering, like, could you handle a lot of your data just by doing continuation flows. So just spit that out, mark it as a continuation for what the return is. So in case it just never happens, it just never executes.
So I'll tell you why I picked Work Manager. One of the things you'll see a slide. So all the users are very cognizant of their battery usage. If you're gonna pull every 15 minutes, and let's say you're making a call on the network, right?
Yeah.
Like that. So what Work Manager does, and I'll show you in one of the slides, at night, it puts the phone in the doze mode. Work Manager is aware of that, so it'll stop pulling. And I'll show you, it reduces the polling by like 2-3 hours. So literally there's like a method to the madness. So that was one of the nice things. So I didn't have any issue of data consistency. So Work Manager, I think I would like use it even for Android app generally to even make the API calls. If you had something kind of like that you wanted to periodically refresh, or even for other stuff. So if you wanted, like, I'll tell you, we worked on one airline app and it was for the crew pilots, right? Or the crew. And like the client had written it themselves first, and our developers were trying to fix the bugs in it. Guess what? The pilot goes up in the air, right? And now he's in or she is in airline mode, right? Airplane mode. Well, at that time, you don't want this thing, right? So if you were using Work Manager, it has knowledge that the user has already gone into that mode. Hey, I don't want to be firing up. Work Manager knows about it because you can set the constraints to it, right? And then when you come back and they come back in and it says, oh, there's network, Work Manager knows it already. You don't have to do anything. That thread, the queue stuff just starts. So I think that's one of the reasons I picked that one. So I could have done it, the fetching of the thing with Kotlin coroutines or any of the other flow mechanisms, But like I said, with this one, and literally I'll show you the code for the Work Manager is like 10-15 lines. It's so easy. So Android is doing the lift, and on top of it, it is Android aware. So I'll show you that. Okay, so let's look at the other files. So for example, in the widget utils, I literally have the preference, get calendar data, and I do the JSON builder, and I just create a little from my class of the list of things. Actually, let me show you the repository. So right now I just hardcoded it. Okay, my repo is that, but you could have a network. You can fetch the data. So all I'm doing is literally just saying, hey, add these events. And to test out my polling things, my last event, I made it random, and I just said, hey, pick the current month and every 15 minutes. So I would like just put my thing and I would check back and it just change the day to something like that, periodically. Now, one thing, I think there's a bug and my thing, the UI did not show up. So let me try doing that. Ideally, it should have populated these events. So I'm going to go actually to this slide. And I want to try to add the widget again. Good. Go back here. Add it here. I know I may have swiped off the app, and that's why, like, I wait like 15 seconds. Let's see, I'm gonna pause, and some of those holidays, for example, Juneteenth, 19th, coming Monday is the holiday, so I marked that. 4th of July. Oh yeah, now you see the blue one showed up. Yeah. The holidays. So that was the bug, right? So I still that's another one that I'm trying to figure out. But maybe I think it was just not a bug. It's just like after I pinned the widget, but I swiped my thing off so that my main activity never got the chance to start that refresh thread, so that's fine. But now you can see, because my activity is running in the background. Now, if I kill my activity, that's okay. So one thing we'll see right now, 18th of June is randomly what it's selected, for that random event right here, the last one. In fact, I can even. So let's see, in 15 minutes, we'll come back, and if it does update to something else, that again, my code will work. All right, so let's go back. I think most of the things are here. So some of the things to kind of recognize, in the design aspect, the flavors and sizes. Always keep one thing in mind. You need only one glance app widget receiver. Even if you have multiple, the Google example, they had like 3 different sizes of the thing, doesn't matter. You still have one receiver, so you don't have to worry about that. Data complexity. If you do know that you do have like data, like for example, if I was to write one of the calendar, like actually the Google Calendar one where you're getting a lot of data and it's got a lot of information in it. And also the email one where you're polling for the email, there's a lot of data coming, right? You can't use shared preferences and things like that. At that time, I would say use Room database and some of the other things. And also figure out like if you want to write the thing by traditionally without Glance, you can do that. But otherwise, I think from Glance does support list view. So you can show lists of stuff, so you can kind of do that. So keep that in mind. Room database is supported, and I'll show you some code snippet that one of the Google developers kind of shared with you. I think we talked about the repurposing the existing app. Like I said, whenever you write the Glance related compose code, instead of the regular modifier that compose uses, this one uses a Glance modifier. So only like some of those changes you got to make. So you got to kind of this battery usage concern. So with the work manager, you can set these kind of like, hey, set required network time, set required charging, like meaning if I am plugged in, and it's charging, okay, go ahead and keep making the calls, and but you can set these work manager constraints so it save your battery life, So if you're doing refreshing, especially if you're doing an email or something like that, you might be polling even more frequently, right? Then you want to figure something like that out. Okay. Last one, do your testing on legacy OS is also like 3.12 and things like that. I didn't do too much. I did once, like something. For the most part, everything worked. So I did not do very thorough testing. We talked about the basically prompting to add. This is where that preview XML layout, and you can see whatever I had in that XML layout. That's what it rendered. That's all it does. So let's look at the refresh manager, now the data part of it, right? Basically. So you can see in my start calendar data fetch, I set up the constraint and said, like, look, the person has to be connected onto the network. It requires charging false. I set it false. You can set it in true based on what your characteristics are. Especially if you're going to do like a video playback, you probably want it to be charged, or you can say, if my battery is above a certain threshold or something like that, And like, yeah, set requires battery not low, true, So it'll automatically turn on. And I'll show you the full code. So here's what I was talking about, right? About the battery optimization. So one night I left my phone charging, right? And midnight, 12:15, 12:30, right? Every 15 minutes interval, it was doing the polling. The other day, I took it out and look at that. 12:30 it polled once, then 1:30 it polled, then 3:30, and then 6:30 in the morning. How it figures out, I don't know. Maybe it's a those thing, but at least this is the beauty of using Work Manager because it has Android knowledge. So even if you don't do an app widget, look into Work Manager. Like it's I'll show you the code, literally like 10, 20 lines of code, nothing much. And if it can give you Android knowledge, and I wish that airline app that we were working on, like I think our developers may have used it, but something like that, it is a must. It's like a requirement, make your life easier. So that's the thing. So let's look at actually the code. So we're almost done. So here's the code. So literally, you create this calendar work manager. It extends a routine worker. Calendar repo, that's the where I get all the events, so I get that. And this is, you just create a new work. That's the only function you need to implement, basically, for the work manager. Does that, and then you just say update widget data. So if you look at that one, now here's the funny thing. So what you're gonna do is you say Glance App Widget Manager and get all the Glance IDs. So user may have, if you have like 2-3 different flavors, they may have placed 2 or more widgets, right? Less likely, but they could have, right? So this one is actually going through it, and then it's saying that, hey, preferences and say set calendar data to this event. That's it. And And then this is the clunky part I did not like. That you instantiate your app widget class, and then you say update, kind of manually. So this felt like a little bit glitchy, right? Like I wish a lot of the receivers and let me show you some of those files. So like, for example, the widget receiver, right, which extends glance one. It has an on enable. I never got the call back. On disable, never got the call back. On update, it happens, but really, like I tried playing with it, but it wasn't doing anything much, So literally, like this class, you can just extend it and not do anything to it, It's just for the thing and the documentation for glance. They didn't even talk much about it. And like I said, this is the start calendar fetch data. So this is where I put the constraints, like the battery not low. And there are like a lot of different constraints, like this one. And you can see this set, max delay, URI trigger, device idle, whatever. So a lot of these things built in that you're getting. If you're using this work manager, keep in mind, 15 minutes is their minimum. So I wish I could have gone a little bit lower. So that was one of the things, that's one of the limitations, of work manager. But for my thing, 15 minutes, I mean, these events are not going to change that often. So it worked kind of, And then you would just say, start this periodic work request builder. I put the thing, I put it, whatever my lowest one I could use, 15 minutes, and set the constraints and set the initial delay. So basically what I did is I wait 20 seconds. So let glance the first time you're installing the widget, let it kind of settle everything. And then this kind of helped me get rid of some of those edge cases, So do that. And yeah, like enqueue this unique periodic work. This is really important. This existing periodic work policy.keep, meaning like if you were to start another app session or something like that, now it's going to fire another one of these work manager thread. So this one kind of coalesces all of them and make sure that only one thread is running at a time. So you don't have like a bunch of different ones. If user is clicked on the app again, it's not going to fire from the one, or it's going to repurpose your previous one and replace it with this new one, kind of like that. And yeah, and then this cancel one, if you want to just go ahead and cancel it. Right now, I'm not canceling it any time, it's going to just consistently just keep refreshing it every 15 minutes. Hopefully in a few minutes, maybe the 18th, we do see a change there. Let's go back. Yeah, I talked about some of the challenges, like, yeah, the refreshing of the data and just the way it was doing, how you do the updates was a little bit clunky, kind of, all of these callbacks that I set up, but I never got callback, so that was one thing. The room database one. So let me share this one. For example, I had done a little request for enhancement on the issue tracker with Glance. And one of the Google guy immediately, like, this is the fastest Google developer has responded to any of my tickets in my 12 years working on Android. Okay, literally, like, I don't know, I opened it on February 28th. March 1st, look at that, like they took it, and by March 21st, so it took a month, but the guy gave me a code snippet, right? And he said, like, hey, we already have this GitHub link, you go to it, there's a repo, and literally you do this thing, this words repo, and literally it's a repository that they set up, which is just going to randomly change this little characters and things like that. And they're driving it using the room database, so you can see literally not too much coding, right? The guy suggested, I've not had a chance to go back and try it, but I'll try it, and I want to add more features to this calendar a little bit, I'll do that, but they're very receptive, so that was really, I was really pleased with that, that one of their guys would kind of take time to do that. So these issue trackers are there. Let's go. If you want to search on Stack Overflow, you can just apply this glance-app widget. Right now, there are like 30 or so questions. This guy named Marcel Pinto, I believe, he's one of the Google guys. I think he's one of the developers. he responds to all the questions. So you'll see me on there, and I've posted some questions and he immediately responds on there. So that is really good to have. By the way, I did write a blog back. So if you were to look, search on Google for like App Widget Glance blog, it'll be one of the top 3-4 hits. You see it, and I will share this link also. The blog that I wrote, that has the links to, so you'll have all the screenshots and things like that. Everything that I did in this slide, but a little bit more concise. And then it has at the bottom of it somewhere, a little bit of the work manager stuff, and all of the code, and also some of the useful links are also there. So you can kind of, if you want to just go to the bug list, hey, I save you guys the trouble. I don't want you to search like 10 different things. One of the things is I was developing, I was looking at other people's blogs, right, to figure out like, hey, what? And there were like some good blogs, but there's this about the app widgets, the documentation is just like in a mixed state. Well, does it apply in the glance case, or does it apply for the, like if you were to do the native app widget development? So it was like, that was the thing. So my reason for doing the blog and this presentation is like, hey, at least whatever I know, I want to pass it on so nobody has to do that kind of minutia of the homework over and over. So we have that. Yes, some of the Google Docs. They have actually that Marcel Pinto guy. He has one of their own GitHub repo also. That actually I found from one of the bugs, that somebody else had filed, and they had a link on it. So it was good. I said I want to have a sample done by Google because they know the inside of Glance, right? So that kind of helped me resolve some of my issues with the resizing of the widgets and things like that. This is one of the bugs that I created. So to the last, the conclusion. Glance makes widget development fun. You saw like I did not write more than 200 to 300 lines of code, if that even. And each of the files like maybe 5-10 lines of code you saw, right? So it's like here a little bit, there, and I was able to do this calendar thing, So I was really pleased, and not much code to write, simplistic. Google devs are very receptive, so that is nice. They respond on the Stack Overflow, so that's Marcel guy, like within 2 or 3 days, if you do have a question, if you're doing one, they'll respond. This is my contact info. I am on the Slack, gdbdallasslack.com. So if you are developing and you have a question, you will feel free to ask me on that. GitHub, things like that. And then let me go back to this one and see if I don't know if 15 minutes are up or not, or if I got about. Actually, let's look at this. I want to look at the lock-at real quick. So one thing I did, when at night, I didn't even know if lock-at would remain, right? Like maybe Andrew would shut it down. So what I did is I wrote like a little compose screen in my settings thing, and whenever I do the log thing, it would just put it in there. So I had literally like a list view with all of my comments, and I'll show you real quick. But let's see if this one, if it did it. I don't think it did. So maybe it's because of the emulator, or like I'm trying to figure out. Start work manager to fetch entries. 746. Oh yeah, so we. Oh yeah, right here. So 13 events loaded. Last day of the month was 18, right? And that's what we saw on the thing. But since then, I have not seen that. Let's search for events. So one of them, like it did happen. One time it was one. What are the odds that the random would give me the 18th second time? So maybe that's what it is. Like initially, like last day of the month that I picked, the random one was 1 at one time. At what time is it? Like 6:50. 1741. But that was already a lot for you, But 1947. But still, there should have been one more. I don't know. Did I kill the? But essentially, we can kind of,
Yeah, maybe the work manager didn't fire because you weren't
like,
using
let's
it.
wipe it off. That's what I'm trying to figure out, like, let me look through this. Yeah, look, either the emulator killed it or whatever, but yeah, essentially.
I don't know if
This
you-
one. So either I have a bug, so this one, go to the calendar. This is my thing, but yeah, essentially like, I don't know, something happened, but it should have refreshed, but
So now if you
Additionally-
leave, will it not refresh now when you leave the,
we can.
when you go back to the home?
That's right. Yeah, I did see a new event. Okay, so now it's.
So now go
fine.
back to the,
Yeah, so let's see now.
go. Home screen.
Yep,
Yeah.
fine.
There it is.
You saw it too. So. It's always work, it feels good, right? Even though you know it works, but kind of, some of the edge cases. So thank you very much. I really enjoyed working on this and presenting it also.
Questions?
Yeah.
Questions, comments, thoughts?
It's really cool.
Yeah, I think the reason for like, I think what I started with was like, with Google, somehow I got person 1 through 5. And then somehow, like, whatever website I go to, it's kind of like, it's almost like I coded it myself or something like that. So I'm kind of like, what's going, what's
Yeah.
going on? How do I get this? I don't know what mode I enter into. So, and then with the coding, like, where you can write or code or something like that. So, it's a lot of blinds, it's eager to learn and see how I can, I
Exactly.
guess, turn to something different.
So one thing I'll tell you is like a lot of our
Why
developers.
is there still XML?
Yeah.
Why is there still XML involved?
Yeah, that's why like I would say learn compose, that's where everything is going towards. And it makes like development a lot easier. But as far as tooling, a lot of our Android developers here, we use this thing, JetBrains has a toolbox. It's a free thing you download and it kind of like, I don't know if I can share this.
Yeah, I would like to know what am I doing, what am I creating?
Yeah. So do this, because one of the things in
Preview
Android
thing.
Studio,
Yeah.
they keep releasing new versions all the time, right? So one thing that a lot of our developers found out is like this JetBrains toolbox, literally. So now you can just click on this guy, the Android Studio. So it'll show you everything, like IntelliJ, any of the tools that JetBrains has written. It's a free tool. And by the way, they wrote it in this composed multi-platform, literally. So it's literally, you're seeing the composed code running it, on the Mac OS, right? And yeah, and you can see like whatever, you can click on install. On this one, you'll say that. I can go back to the previous version also, like sometimes they'll have a buggy one, so you can go back and things like that. So this way, stay on top of the latest Android Studio version also, So that might also help. So just Google for JetBrains toolbox, and it'll be just a little thing that stays up that little square cube at the very top right here. And then it's this little app, so I kind of refresh. Maybe we should add the extension for Copilot.
For what? Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, but for the tools, like at least for if you're doing even like compose layout, now this one it didn't preview my calendar thing in compose because of Glance, but like if you your real one, you can even see that in preview. So it's really. And the nice thing nowadays with the things, it even has drop downs where you can say, what is my view going to look like on a foldable device? Right now, they came up with a foldable phone themselves. Samsung has those. So it's like you can see what your view is going to look like on that. Excellent.
Well, any other questions? If not, we'll do a few. I don't know. I think I've got like a pair of socks we can do as a giveaway. So we'll set that up for people in the room and we'll kind of make sure everyone gets all the stuff in the room. But we'll go ahead and kind of stop the recording. Thanks everybody who joined online. Siddharth, Manuel, do you have any questions or anything? Questions or comments?
Glance is that easy.
So easy. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, Manuel posted in the chat. Cool. Well, thank you both for coming to the online version of it, and we'll kind of wrap things up here in the room. But we'll go ahead and stop the recording and in the YouTube live and all that stuff. So, see, I'll stop this.